So, what brought upon the desire that you wanted to write a children's book?
I worked with children.
Okay.
I have experience, and I've worked with, those kinds of kids per se, the ones that don't always behave very well and the kids that do behave well.
Hey folks, Shane here at Creative Side Podcast, here with Cody.
Hey guys.
How's it going, Cody?
It's going great. It's going great. Yeah, another day to be excited.
Yeah, I mean, this is episode number 2, so hopefully we're getting a little better as we go.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the episode 1 went pretty good, but we are working on getting some tech things down, trying to get our mics sound a little bit better, and but I've got some super exciting news that you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. So we have, me and Cody, we mentioned in the last episode, we work together at our church on the tech team, but there's one person on our tech team that just like pulls it all together.
Yeah. She's more like behind the scenes.
She's behind the scenes,
yeah.
But she ain't going to be behind the scenes anymore.
No, not today.
I already talked to her about that.
Yeah.
But so we have recruited our producer, Miss Kacie. Hey, Kacie.
Hey,
how's it going?
It's going very well. How are you all?
Good.
Good.
So we got you over there running the switcher, just being able to navigate the cameras and things like that.
Yep.
And but tell us a little bit about yourself, Kacie.
Let's see. Where should I start? I came to Christ as a child, and then in my adolescent years, I strayed away, and even in college, I strayed away. But I ended up becoming a mom in my early 20s, and I wasn't really focused on God before that. But when I became a mom, God changed my life, and I just decided to go all in with God. And then through some more mistakes after that, I eventually came back to Madisonville, Kentucky, and just allowed God to transform my life. I enjoy writing. I do writing and that sort of thing. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, I know you do writing, and you've done some children's books. I know for sure one that we actually have, and we read to our grandkids, and good job on that. And
Thank you.
Writing like that is a creative thing, right, Cody?
Absolutely. I'd like to know a little bit more about the children's books that you. When did you write those?
So the first book, which is the only book right now, but I wrote that in 2015, and it didn't get published until 2020. I went through TBN to get that published, and it was a long journey, a lot of rewrites and working with the production team and the design team for that. So it was in 2020 that I was able to get that published. I didn't promote it because I'm not very good with self-promotion, and God is teaching me how to promote what He's involved in. So I'm still learning God's process on things.
Gotcha. And I also got another question. So, what brought upon the desire that you wanted to write a children's book?
I worked with children.
Okay.
I have experience, and I've worked with, those kinds of kids per se, the ones that don't always behave very well and the kids that do behave well. And with the kids that, didn't behave very well, I noticed that grace is needed. So I decided to write a story on my experience with one particular child she was pretty comical and unique at the same time. Just teaching her, how to behave in school. And she'd always say, okay, I'll be good after every time she misbehaved. But she always struggled to be good. So that was my desire to write the book, is just to help teachers also understand that you're not alone, that we all have kind of the same story with working with children, and it requires a lot of grace.
Wow.
I can definitely relate to what she's saying, because I've got 11 grandkids.
Yes.
And, but even, we have 4 kids ourselves, and, the boys need a little bit more grace than the girls.
Yes. Great.
But, so Kacie, let's talk a little bit about how we got connected. I was working on the creative team at church, and you started coming to our church. Can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Absolutely. In November of 2018, I moved back to Madisonville, as I stated earlier, and I really wasn't sure what church I was going to go to. I was actually going to go to another church, but then I looked online and I saw information about the church that we go to now, and it just spoke to me prophetically because one of the churches I went to before moving back to Madisonville, there was a prophetic word regarding where I would be planted. And so I came to the church that we go to now. I'm not sure if I should say the name, so I'll just keep it anonymous. But uh, I started going to that church in 2018. And then February of 2019, I went through the growth track. And I either wanted to be on the greeter team or the production team. And the growth track coordinator at that time stated, well, they really need help on the production team. And I said, okay, I'll do that because I felt like it would be a stepping stone for the creative things that I wanted to do. And I know you mentioned earlier before we started shooting stepping stones. So I was really excited to be a part of the production team because I knew it would take me somewhere at some point. I really wasn't sure of the timeline, but I'm excited that I was able to connect with you and the guys on the production team and see where God would lead us.
Right.
Yeah.
And you didn't realize once you got on as the on the technical team, started learning that you would not get off. You know, it is, we kind of joke about that sometimes, I like to be there every Sunday and Kacie, like, she's there. I mean, like I said, she does the technical directing. So she has, she's deciding what camera is shown on the broadcast or whatever. And I most of the time do the audio, but, she's there all the time. It's like she's that good at it.
Yeah.
And it's like when she's not there, like sometimes I will sit down and train under her on technical directing. I'm like, don't show me this part because, I don't even want to know that, So, but anyway, how do you like doing that? Tell us a little bit about how once you've got started in technical directing and things like that, what do you find rewarding in that?
Well, first I want to say that I had no experience and everything that I learned from Shane and the guys on the production team. So I'm very grateful that I'm surrounded by people who enjoy what they do, and that's very contagious. And so I enjoy being on the production team. I never thought that I would be in a position to technical direct because I was very intimidated by all the equipment. And when I was going through the training for the production team, I was very ambitious. I wanted to learn everything. I wanted to learn the lights, the camera switches, the media, and the sound, which I completely changed my mind not long after that. So I think I found my niche with technical directing, and I'm very grateful that I've had you to kind of guide me through it and explain things and give me ideas for different camera shots. So I'm very grateful.
Well, it is a fun thing, because for me, when I do technical directing or even mixing live audio, we're all creative people, and to me, I like to sit back and whenever we've done mixed the live mix, I like to go back and listen to it and be like, yeah, that sounds really good. I've done really good here, or maybe not so good here, and figure out what we missed and how we can get it better. And that's I don't know, creative people, they got to find a way to express their creativity. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. There's a scripture in the Bible that says a dream deferred makes the heart sick. So for me, before I came to Victory, I was very unfulfilled. But when I began coming to Victory and seeing how God was moving me in a process to fulfill the dreams that he had given me, I knew that I was in the right place, surrounded by the right people, going in the same direction that God wanted me to go.
Right. And there's something about,
Good.
your creativity, whenever you're able to serve and use that. We talked about that in the last episode, about, finding outlets to be able to use our creativity, because our day jobs may not necessarily allow for that, and being able to be connected in a church that allows you to use that is just, it's just an awesome thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know that whenever I got invited to serve on the team, it was, I was thrilled because I was already in a process of like, I have this creative desire inside of me that I want to get out, and they put me to use. So, yeah. And it's, oftentimes, we could do the things that we have the desire to do when we create, um, you know, like she works on a production team, you do videography, I do some videography and whatnot. We can do that for, typical commercial business, but when we do it for the kingdom, it's so much more fulfilling.
It is, whenever I started, playing music, and, when I was a kid, I started playing bass guitar probably around 14, 15 years old, and got into playing. Not that there's anything wrong with playing country music in a country band. It's not, nothing wrong with that, but it just didn't have the meaning that versus whenever I'm playing, for purpose, a positive purpose. And same thing with, video production. Some of the projects I do the best on are the ones, it's not just because this project is paying you money to do this. Mm-hmm. It's some that have meaning.
Absolutely.
And when you go back, because you're just pouring it in, man. And, and you look at that video you just did or whatever it is, and you're like, yeah, I got paid to do this video if it's a commercial project. But I do a lot of stuff with like nonprofits and different things like that, and you look at it and you get a sense of reward out of that because you did something that's going to impact other people.
Yeah.
That's the way I like to use my creativity.
Absolutely. I agree. I'm 100% on that one. Yeah.
Do you kind of go along the same lines on that, Kacie?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's, using our creativity in those type of ways for me and for this group of people is, one of the things. But let's ask Kacie a couple more questions. Kacie, what was, so we worked together. How many years, you may have already said this, but how many years have you been working on the tech team?
Since 2019.
2019. So we went through COVID together.
Yep.
And we talked about that a little bit before we started broadcast or shooting this reel. But the way we were set up, I was out in front of house during that time. So, and you were kind of back in the back room. So I couldn't really remember who was doing directing, but it was Kacie. What did you think about during that time when we would go in and there was nobody else in the church? We were just shooting and mixing for the live stream.
It was still a bit nerve-wracking because we were using a different system towards the beginning of COVID. We were still using, I think, was it Wirecast?
Probably.
Yeah, we were using Wirecast, and one particular Sunday or a few days before Sunday, I had to go in and put in the lyrics, which that was never really my responsibility to do. So for me, starting out in COVID, I was still a bit nervous about it because I was still learning things. And then as time progressed, we eventually went to OBS and then to Resi. So I think we progressed with the times because we needed to. We needed to be more efficient in our productivity and what we put out there so that people would be more engaged and more excited for, what we were doing on Sunday. And then coming into the house, I think that that's what it's really about, getting people engaged online so that they have a desire to come in house and be engaged with us and with the Holy Spirit. So God used COVID for his good.
Yeah. I think so. And I've always believed this, that through our live streams, I think there's a lot of people that's going to maybe test drive the live stream before they actually come into the church.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so us as a creative team, we've got a lot to do with that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just think there's valuable opportunity in being a part of a church where you can serve. And, you know, I don't know if there's a lot of churches out there that actually have a creative team per se that, you know, like for me, unfortunately, I had to kind of back away due to personal um, family things. And I'll just go ahead and say my daughter came in and she's living with us now. So unfortunately, I had to tell the lady that's over the creative team that I have to back away for a season as of right now. But, you know, I don't know if churches have the opportunity for men and women to come on board to serve in a creative function, you know, like with video production, um, creating social media posts or videos or whatnot like that. But I'm fortunate enough to be a part of a church that does. So.
Yeah, you know, and I think you're right about that. There is, you know, when you look around in the area we live in, and really all the way across the U.S., there's going to be smaller churches that are maybe just trying to get into an online presence. And, you know, because we were there too. I remember whenever we started, we just had one camera connected straight to OBS, and that was our live feed. And we tried the best we could to get audio into it. Some days we had to just leave the microphone on top of the camera and let it pick up the house. Mm-hmm. But so everybody's on a different level. And, you know, especially during COVID, churches that were not doing any social media, they were just kind of, everybody scrambled during that time to figure out how to get online. So there's a lot of churches, and this is something that I really enjoy doing, is helping a church that is maybe trying to get their live feed started, or either they've started it and they're at a place where they've got one camera and they want to graduate to the next level of maybe, you know, getting from one camera to maybe a 3-camera shot now, and maybe getting, instead of taking the house audio, having secondary audio that's mixed specifically for online. I really like to help other churches, you know, figure that out, because it is, it's a, and then you got churches that are on that next level, like way above where we're at.
Yeah.
And, you know, even us here, we're doing a very simple technical thing here. We got a mixer, a sound mixer over here, a video mixer and things like that, which it's pretty good. But there are folks out there that are doing way more than what we're doing. But there's a lot of people in between that personally I like to help.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I'll get opportunity to go to a church. They may call me and say, "Hey man, what could you do here? Or what would you recommend doing to improve our online?" And I get a lot of enjoyment out of helping like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Kacie, do you have you ever had anybody connect with you about how they can improve their online presence and things like that, knowing that, you know, you're directing and stuff there? Do you run into that? I've run into it a few times a year.
I have not had that experience yet, but if the opportunity came, I would be more than willing to help them, because it's all about kingdom building and collaboration and doing things that God wants us to do.
For sure.
Absolutely. Because, you know, you think about it, at the end of the day, doing this type of service really brings more of Jesus out into the world. It has a more opportunity and open door for other people who may not be able to hear a message or see the message that the Lord is speaking through this church can actually, you know, move and people can hear it.
Yeah. So Kacie, I apologize. When we started this, I meant to look at the clock to keep up with our time. I'm not sure how far we are into this. We're trying to stay around 30 minutes because we actually got our next guest is like in the studio right now, and we're going to create our next episode here in just a little bit. With our next guest is going to be very interesting to speak with, because he is very talented musician. He's been worked in many studios in Nashville, done a lot of, road gigging and stuff like that. And looking forward to that episode coming up. Do you have any idea how far in we are?
We are almost at 20 minutes.
Almost at 20 minutes. We got a few more minutes.
All right. So Kacie, if I'm not mistaken, she's going to be participating in these podcasts. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. So I
Show
know.
me some grace.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So I know that one of the things that we were needing is someone to be on the technical side. You may or may not see Kacie as much as you do us or the guests, but always know that you've heard her heart in what she's shared with us so far. Just know that she is behind there, hitting the buttons, making his place, making us look a lot better.
Well,
for sure.
That's all. Everything you said is correct, and but I want to be able to have Kacie. I kind of got a vision for some things going forward, and maybe have Kacie as in the host seat, and let me jump over there and do her job, because we're really used to doing stuff like that, because in our creative team at our church, we all move around in different positions, so. I know Kacie's got a lot of good things to say and stuff like that. And she knows some creative people or people that might be a good guest, as you do as well. And so I would like for us to move around. I know you mentioned to me, I ain't going to say their name on the podcast, but you already mentioned a lady here in town that is an artist. I know her.
Yes.
And she would be a good guest.
Absolutely.
But you know her much better than me. So I'd like for you to be the interviewer for that, and I could just sit and listen and interject.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'd like to hop around like that and give everybody a chance to, maybe bring in somebody that they think are really interesting. Ultimately, I think this podcast is going to be just getting to know people that are creative and really who they are, not so much sitting down and analyzing this microphone, although it's a good microphone. It's an affordable mic for a podcast, and a lot of guys are using them, but not so much that. It's much more interesting learning the mindsets of the creative people and how they get their inspiration and different things like that.
Yeah, that's good. You've revealed to the viewers now the format of the podcast moving forward by how it's going to look in the days to come too. Yeah.
And unless it changes,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. This is creative, so it could change the next time we have someone come on.
I think that, every time we do an episode, obviously we're on episode 2, every time we do an episode, we're probably going to learn something.
Absolutely.
I've found that out throughout my life, especially working with other creative people. I thought maybe I had this down pat, and then I see how Kacie does it. I'm like, holy smoke. For like a year, I've been doing it this way. And she's like, I just learned this from her. And, and now it just completely changed the way I do something. But yeah, do you ever had anything like that, Kacie?
Someone's always showing me something new. Always. And I just smile and say thank you, because if it makes the process better, if it glorifies the Lord, I'm all for it.
I was having a conversation with our worship leader, and I feel like, and I could talk to Jamie about this in the next episode, but I feel like I have learned some on sound mixing and post-production mixing of audio, like bands and mastering and stuff like that. I feel like I've learned a few trades of the pros that the pros don't actually tell you. Yeah. You have to just learn them. There's not like a book out there where they're going to say, okay, here's how you do that. You have to earn your way, up. And just recently I've learned a couple of things. I feel like, wow, when I'm mixing music, I'm going for a certain style that I like. that and I couldn't figure out. My biggest challenges when I'm mixing is always, it seems that it's the bass and the kick, and the snare. Those three things I want very present in the mix. And many times I could not get that where I want it, but I've recently learned how to do those. And so I'm not like, it sounds selfish, but I'm not like giving away those secrets yet. But I can't keep a secret very long. I'm going to tell the other team guys, but I'm going to let them think, well, how's he doing this for a little while?
Yeah.
You ever have anything like that?
I got a question for you, Shane.
All right, go ahead.
Being on the technical side of things, when you're not serving, do you have a harder time engaging in the service?
Yes. Yeah, it's I feel a little strange whenever I'm in the congregation. I've done, for so many years, I've served on the team. And hey, look, let me just tell you, I think it's incredibly important that we do have times where we can be in the congregation. But for years, Kacie, I have done either played bass guitar on the platform or worked in the creative side of, running sound, mixing the video or whatever. So yeah, that's a good question. And yeah, I do. Yeah. I feel a little different whenever don't have that, because for me, you know how it is. I like to get there early, and I just want to run through everything, make sure everything's good, is to the best of my ability, because it seems like when everybody else comes in, there's going to be something that's not working right, and we're going to have to work through something. But, even on days if I'm not scheduled, I'm probably going to come in anyway. Yeah. And I'm just going to walk around and just listen. But that's just me.
For me, when I first had my first Sunday off, which was several years, I had a hard time worshiping. I didn't remember how to raise holy hands. But that's not the church's responsibility, because I should have been home in my own form of worship. But for me, it was difficult engaging in the service because I felt like I should be doing something, because I was so used to the technical side of things.
Yeah, you're exactly right on that. And we do, probably me and you feel that way more than Cody does.
Yeah.
But me and you have been, not to boast us or anything, but we've been, elements of it that has to be there.
Yeah.
And, for me, I'm cool with that. I like that. I like to be able to be there. There are times, and I'll be totally honest with you, I'll mix music on Sunday, and then throughout the week, I'm traveling with my day job, and I'm thinking about next Sunday. I thought about, I'm listening to the playback, and I thought, man, I could have done that better. I wish I would have done this or that. And I'm thinking about what I'm going to do for the next Sunday, just to have that creative outlet. But yeah, it is definitely, I definitely relate to what you were saying on that.
Yeah, for me, it was different. I was the guy that was running around in the sanctuary before and a little bit after service with a camera. I was the B-roll guy.
Yeah.
So I was the one that...
Do you ever feel like that people are just like watching you run around with the camera like, what are you doing?
I am very aware of that. Yeah. And I always had this feeling like I don't want to invade someone's personal space, especially when they're worshiping.
Yeah.
I do love capturing moments like that, I will say, because when a person sees that, it just, you get this feeling, of, man, this is an intimate place of worship. And some people are okay with that, and some people are not, and there's a good number of people who come to our church. And so I didn't know that many. The better I knew the person, of course, I can hey, let me get a couple of shots of you real quick. But yeah, I was very aware of their personal space, and I always made it a point to not invade that for sure. Definitely did not want to bring attention to myself when they're in a moment with union with the Lord, you know. But going back, yeah, so I was capturing B-roll before service would start, and I would capture little stills or some B-roll after service. So during service time, I was actually able to sit and view the message with my wife.
Yeah.
But
Nice. Like going back, to the length of time. That's why I said that about Kacie and myself. I'd been behind the scenes for, gosh, 20 years.
wow,
So imagine what we do on Sunday. I'd been doing those kind of things for like 20 years.
wow,
The church I was at before I came to the church we're at now, I did those things. The church before that, I did those things. And that's when, at that church is when I started going to church.
Mhm.
So I've probably been in church for 20 years, but
So let me ask you this, and it's related to what Miss Kacie had just asked. Were there times during service when you was actually able to participate in watching the service? Where there are times where you're like, man, I got to get back there and fix this because there's something that you hear.
it is like, and we'll, Jamie, our next guest, is over here and he's shaking his head. Yes, absolutely. And it's not just at church. At our church, I could be, if I went to somebody else's church, it's just in your head. And if I went to a concert or something like that, you're going to, many times you're going to be in a scenario where you're hearing somebody that are a tech team that's fabulous. You recognize that. I mean, you just, like my daughter's church in Nashville, they are just amazing. And when you go in there, you're just like, wow. I mean, my goodness, how do they do that? And then you hear some, it's like, oh my gosh, I wonder if they would just let me, I know exactly what to touch on the soundboard to fix what's going on.
Yeah.
You have that sometimes too, but yeah, I have a hard time with that. And probably, if I'm in the service, which I can't remember the last time I was in the service at our church, and if there was something off, I would probably get up and go back there and talk to the sound engineer and fix it. I probably would do that.
Yeah,
would you say that, Kacie?
You did that a couple Sundays ago because I sent you a text message because I was watching online. I was like, hey, such and such needs to be fixed, and you took care of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's, and for us, we've got 2 audio feeds, front of house, and then you got the live stream. So, it's hard to hear what's going on in the live stream if you're not running it. But we've, what I'll do is I will usually, if I'm not running front of house or the live feed, I will just kind of test it on my phone. I'll just go out and turn on YouTube and listen for a few minutes to see is it translating right? Because that's been a really hard thing for me to be able to get it to technically, it may sound right in my headphones, but by the time it comes back over YouTube, it's like nothing like what I listened to. Or if I listen to it in my car, it's like, wow, I thought it was sounding great in my headphones. And I've learned a few secrets on that, on how to fix those kind of things. But yes, to answer your question, it is hard to keep hands off whenever it's not your turn.
Imagine.
But do you see that as well, Kacie, like on the technical directing side, camera shots and things like that?
I do see it, but I just kind of let it go.
Well, we've got a pretty good team.
Yeah, we do.
No doubt about it. I mean, I know you're raising up technical directors, and I was watching technical directing this past Sunday, and he was doing a pretty good job. You're always going to miss some things. It's just going to happen. I don't care how good you are, you're going to miss them. But anyway, we're probably close to wrapping. What's our timeline?
We're at 34 minutes.
34. Mm-hmm. So let's wrap this one up because I'm looking forward to the next one. We got Jamie is going to be joining us. But you guys that are watching, if you're enjoying what you're seeing, please like, subscribe, whatever platform you're watching on or listening on. Comment.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Send us a comment if you have questions or anything like that, or topics, or just whatever. As long as your ideas are not mean. If you got something mean, don't even tell us. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't even tell us. We're trying, right?
Yeah. Let the
We're a work in progress.
We are a work in progress.
Yes, we are.
All right, folks. Thanks for joining in. Make sure you subscribe because you're going to want to see this next one. See you, folks.